How would your life be different if you were unbelievably rich, unbelievably famous, and unbelievably powerful? Well, you may not need to wonder if you read the Book of Ecclesiastes, because that is precisely what happened to someone, and it didn't go well. Ecclesiastes originated out of the exile, as the exile was coming to an end and the young people were able to return either to their homeland of Judea, many of whom had never seen it, and many of them were not going to go there. They were going to go to the big city, Alexandria and so on, places where there was not much to do that would bring great honor and glory to God, and this was the concern of the elders of Israel. And so what we have is wisdom literature that originates at this time that would be easy to read, easy to understand, written almost in a poetic way or in a story, such as Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes is what we might call pseudepigraphal. Now, pseudepigraphal, pseudo means false, pigraphal means writing, false writing. It doesn't mean that it's false. What it means is it's someone who's writing this with the identity of someone who sounds very much like Solomon. The writer of Ecclesiastes, Koheleth, is called the preacher. And the preacher sounds very much like Solomon. In fact, this writer who's writing Ecclesiastes, and we don't know who wrote Ecclesiastes, by the way, is voicing this story through the mouth of King Solomon. King Solomon's life was fairly famous, but what we have here is the story of someone who started out wanting to give God glory and to honor God. But as everyone knows, that story did not end like that at all. In fact, King Solomon was corrupted. So what we have here is this tragic story told in sometimes graphic bluntness of the despair that this person telling the story essentially of King Solomon, that he went through as he abandoned God and sought to find meaning and purpose in other things apart from where it could really be found. So Ecclesiastes is full of wisdom and warning. And so what we have as we get toward the end of Ecclesiastes, having these moments of sometimes where it seems like Solomon's about to wake up to himself, but then he will despair. And he will say all the way through here, all is vanity. In fact, verse 2 opens, vanity of vanity, says the preacher. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. And essentially that means, what's the point to any of this? And then we get to the closing chapter, chapter 12. And we have really the conclusion and the point of the entire book. So Ecclesiastes is written from the perspective of a backslidden king. That is, someone who has not been faithful to the covenant that he had with Yahweh, with God. As a result of this, his perspective on life's meaning was greatly distorted. We know that in Ecclesiastes, which describes what we already know about King Solomon, is that he had unbelievable wealth. He had unbelievable opportunity. He had some 800 concubines. He had many, many wives. He was an incredibly oversexed man. He had as much access to wine and whatever else was on offer that anyone could ever have wanted. And yet, he says, it's all vanity of vanities. It's all pointless. So then we come to the very end of Ecclesiastes. And the writer describes the aged Solomon. He describes an aged man. And he's using poetic language to say that his eyesight has gone dim. His teeth are not what they used to be. His sense of taste has gone. He has to get up in the middle of the night because he can't control his bladder. Pretty graphic language. And so then in Ecclesiastes chapter 12 it says, let us hear the end of the matter. Fear God and keep his commandments. And that's the message of Ecclesiastes. I encourage you to read Ecclesiastes and see that what it describes is sometimes things, ideas that are coming out of a man who's turned his back on God. That's how it's being voiced. And some of those things are just not true. Like, money is the answer to everything. No, it's not. But when you turn your back on God, you think it is. He says, hard work is the answer. And then he says, no, it's not. And so on, and so on, and so on. So as you read through Ecclesiastes, bear that in mind, see the context, and draw the wisdom out of it that you'll find particularly in the closing part of chapter 12 of Ecclesiastes. Please, if you haven't given this a thumbs up, please do. If you haven't hit the notification bell, please do that. If you're not yet a subscriber, please subscribe. And I hope that you'll come with me through this journey as we dig deeper into the Bible's exilic literature. And in our next installment, we're going to have a look at what's also pseudepigraphal, the Song of Solomon or the Song of Songs. And we're going to see that even this book came out of the exile period as a warning to those who are about to return to Judah. See you then.